going to explain about their B2B businesses. One specializes in manufacturing and the other business in marketing and advertising. But before they begin, I'd like to talk a little bit about FranNet and some franchising facts. So who is FranNet? FranNet has been around for about 25 years. We have over 80 offices, 3 of which are in Germany, and we just opened one in England. We help potential entrepreneurs. Sorry, I forgot to move that. We help potential entrepreneurs find a franchise that fits their profile at no cost to them. Many people are looking for a business that they can thrive in any economy. I get asked all the time, what is the most popular franchise? So we are looking for those few businesses that can thrive now and down the road. Right now, we see healthcare and senior care markets as one of the strongest markets out there. Census data goes out every 3 years, and they say that 25% of population is over 65 and 25% is under 25. Residential repair, people aren't buying new homes, they're repairing the current ones. Old people can't. Young people don't know how. There's dual incomes. Households don't have the time. Then there's also child development and education, also driven by demographics. There's also your essential services like your hair care. You have your Supercuts who charge $15 for a haircut, or your automotive. People are fixing their cars and keeping them longer. There's also your damage restoration. The houses get damaged, mold, smoke, damage, fire. When this happens, someone needs to clean it up. Homeowners call the insurance company. There's also business centers and IT services, all to help develop small businesses. Franchising isn't just fast food and retail. Just an overall fact on franchising, there are over 3,000 different franchise companies in more than 80 industries with over 900,000 operating units. Some popular categories are pet care, cleaning, retail, and IT services. Can you make a burger? I can, and it would be a lot better. It's not the product. It's all about the business systems. When you purchase a franchise, you purchase the marketing, sales, and operating systems. You do this so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can focus on building your business. Some people think franchising is very expensive. You have some that are $50,000 to $100,000, like your education and healthcare. Those can be run from home, few employees. Then you have your $100,000 to $250,000, which would include some retail, auto, and some food. Some can go as high as $500,000, like your big food franchises, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's. Typically, you would need to put 25 to 30% down in a business. We do provide some financing options, whereas you can use your 401k or get an SBA loan. At the end of the day, it's all about finding a franchise that is a best fit for you. You want to look at your 5, 10, 15-year goals and use franchising as a tool to help you get to your lifestyle and financial goals. I'm going to wrap this up. This is my contact information. If you would like further information on any one of the businesses we present, I would need you to fill out your personal franchise assessment, which I will be sending to you. Then the franchise would be able to give you further information on their business. If I already have your assessment, I will put you in touch with the franchisor. I will be following up with everyone. Now I'm going to introduce our first business, which is home-based and offers the owner a fun and flexible lifestyle. Okay, Brian?
Yes, thank you so much, Christine. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's doing great today. I'm excited to be able to share information about Welcome Mat with you and our franchise opportunity. And I always like to preface just going through the information that I'm going to go through that this call is really just, or this just a little bit of time that we're going to spend together here is just really just kind of taking a top-level view and trying to make the decision of, as a franchise, potential franchise, is this something I want to learn more about? Or is this just a franchise that wouldn't fit me, and is it not a good fit, just like Christine mentioned? So if I can get everyone to one of those two conclusions today on our end, then I've done my job, which is simply, do I either want to learn more about Welcome Mat, or is this opportunity not one that would fit me? So that's my goal. So what I'm going to do is actually bring us into Welcome Mat, kind of give you a little history about us, where we fit in the marketplace, a little bit about our platform that our franchisees use, and then I'll wrap up with just a little bit of information about our franchise system. So to get us kicked off, what I'll do is bring you into Welcome Mat. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we started. So Welcome Mat is a company, we've been around since 2003. And again, my name is Brian Mattingly. I'm actually one of the founders of the company. I'm the CEO of the company today. And prior to 2003, what I was doing is I worked for a big international software company. And the tools that we provided were tools that helped very large organizations, whether it be the Home Depots of the world or the American Expresses of the world, really sift through the data that they had on their customers so they could create a profile of their best customer, okay, and ultimately go find more of them. So you hear the term big data today. That's exactly what we were doing. And Home Depot is a great application, a great example. So if you can think back to the late 1990s, early 2000s, Home Depot was opening a store just about every week in this country. And they would use tools, software tools like ours at the time, to really sift through any kind of customer transactions they had within the store, any kind of survey data they had collected from their customer base, and any kind of sociographic or demographic information they could gather. They would scrub all that data together and create a profile of their best customer. So when they were going to go open a store, say in Princeton, New Jersey, they would get together with the economic development people there, and they'd say, here's a profile of our best customer. Where should we plant our 2 stores designated for the Princeton market? And they would say, oh, over there on the north side of town or on the west side of town or whatever it was. And in came Home Depot. And this was happening all over the country. And it wasn't just Home Depot. You have companies like Best Buy and TJ Maxx and Marshalls and things like that. So these big box retailers are really using sophisticated technology to open locations. And the byproduct of this was a business problem that we saw. When Home Depot, for example, came into a market like Princeton, there was probably 10, 12, maybe even 14 small local home improvement businesses that were owned locally there in Princeton that would eventually go out of business because they just couldn't compete. And so we said, here's the business problem. Small business owners need access to technology so they can make better decisions and be more strategic and compete against these big box retailers. So what we did is we said, okay, that's what we're going to set out to solve. So before Welcome Mat anything, that was the business problem we wanted to solve. And so once we identified that business problem, we said, okay, what does the local market look like? What is the opportunity? And what we realized was if you pooled together all the local marketing, business development, customer acquisition dollars across the United States, they say today it's about a $140+ billion market. Okay, and that's why you have companies like Google and Facebook and Instagram and those kind of companies really trying to get very hyper-local with their offering because that local opportunity is so strong. So we saw that, and then we knew through some data through the SBA that there was 30 million plus small businesses in the United States. So if we could create a tool for small business, there would be lots of prospects and opportunities for us. And of course, having the software background and us being software people was very beneficial and has been tremendous for our franchisees because we've been able to scale our franchise across the nation and do it with a lot of automation. We haven't had to add incremental headcount as we've grown because we've used some patented software that we've created. And what that equates to is great economics for our franchisees on the local level. So we're able to keep costs down through automation. And so that was a great thing we had going for us. And then furthermore, and I think many of you have seen this up in New Jersey and all over the Northeast, in fact, there's a huge trend today that encourages us as consumers to shop local. Okay, so you may have seen signs around town that say buy locally farmed produce or buy locally farmed beef, or maybe there's a local farmer's market that pops up in a church parking lot on a Saturday morning where local operators are selling their goods. That whole trend of buy local, and in fact American Express has even taken this further, and they have American Express Small Business Saturday, but that whole trend of buy local has been tremendous for Welcome Mat because we're very much a local opportunity. So we had the business problem, we saw the opportunity, and then we had to figure out one additional piece of information. And mind you, I was coming from big corporate. What we needed to do was some studies and focus groups and figure out how small businesses made decisions on growth and customer acquisition. And what we realized was this, and this very much holds true today all across the nation. Most small business entrepreneurs in the nation today are very much experts in what they do. So for example, if any of you went down to your local dental practice, that dental practice is generally owned by probably 1, 2, or even 3 local dentists. And obviously they went to school for dentistry. That's their passion, which is teeth and smiles and mouths. That's their craft, and that's what they studied, and that's what they do. Okay? If you find a local bakery in your community, they probably studied, at the Cordon Bleu, or maybe they went to Johnson & Wales or something to study baking and pastries and that type of thing. That's their passion. That's their craft. Okay, so small business owners, they're educated in what they do. Oftentimes they're not sophisticated marketers and able to build strategies for customer acquisition, and you can't expect them to be because that's not what they went to school for. So what they tend to do is struggle in the area of marketing strategy and growth, and they often don't have big enough budgets to go hire an agency to help them. So they're really left to their own devices to do this. And so we studied all this and we realized, wow, they really do need help in that area. And then one other piece of data fell out of those studies outside of them being experts, and it was this. If you went down to any of your local community businesses and you asked them how much of your sales come from people where you recognize their face or know their name or know where their kids play soccer, essentially your regular customers, most small businesses that you would talk to would say 75, 85, even 90% of my sales comes from regulars. So we clued in on that piece of data and we said, wow, this is something. If we could find a group of consumers in the U.S. that had a very high probability of becoming a new regular for small business, we could really help them. And if we could layer technology on top of that, we would really have a tremendous solution for small business. And so through some studies, what we figured out was there's a really interesting niche in the U.S. population, and that's people moving. Okay, so for example, I'm based out of Atlanta, Georgia. I have a wife and 2 daughters. If we moved to Princeton, New Jersey tomorrow, they say we would build 70 to 71 new relationships in that community because everything we had in Atlanta, Georgia will have been stripped away from us. So my wife needs to replace the salon she's been going to for the past 5 years. We have a yellow lab. We got to find a vet for him. I've pediatrician for the kids, orthodontist. We love Mexican food. So when we land in Princeton, okay, we're a great opportunity for any small business to gain a new regular because we're searching and we're seeking those business and service needs. Whereas someone who's lived in Princeton for 10 years already knows all that. So we become a much better high-value target to become a regular than someone that's established in that community. So that's why Welcome At, our name, is that, and that is why we solely focus in on people moving into communities. So it works like this, if you can follow along on my screen. Let's just turn the tables and say everybody on this call in the Northeast here moves down to Atlanta, Georgia, where we're based. Okay, so shortly after you moved into our community, our office is in Buckhead, which is in town in the city of Atlanta. So if you moved into Buckhead, you would shortly after that get a package from us that looks something like this on the right-hand side of my screen. Okay, it's a big envelope, 6x9, and the first thing you're going to pull out is a letter. And that letter says, welcome to Atlanta. We're so happy you're here. Come to our Welcome At Atlanta Facebook page, where you can learn about all the great things going on in our city, whether it's Jazz in the Park, we have the Dogwood Festival, we have Barbecue and Blues. It's a place you can go as someone new to get plugged in to all the great things going on and find something to do this weekend. Okay? And by the way, as a side note, we're also talking about our customers in that environment as well. So we're giving them some social lift. And then behind that letter, you would get a series of gifts. And if you could see all these are all kind of fanned together. But if you could see these, Coca-Cola is actually the first gift you might pull out. If you don't know, Coca-Cola is based here in Atlanta, and they're going to give you a free ticket to the Coke Museum because they know this. They know a lot of people that move into Atlanta come from the Northeast, and they know historically in that area of the country there's more Pepsi drinkers. They want to invite everybody that newly moves for free to come to the Coke Museum. Okay, you would see things like the bakery giving a fresh loaf of bread. The restaurant or the steakhouse would buy you dinner. The pizzeria would give you a pizza. The dental practice will whiten your teeth for free. So imagine all these gifts in this package. And by the way, these are all gifts, not coupons. They're all gifts to try businesses. Now, let me make a quick point. This is not new at all. This is not novel by any means. In fact, this whole concept has been around since the 1920s. There used to be people that would knock on your door when you moved into a community and tell you about all the great things going on in town over a cup of coffee. Okay, so we've taken that tried and true concept and we've overlaid a 21st century technological face on it. And it works like this. As you can see, on all these pieces, all these gifts, in the little left-hand corner, there's a little square that looks almost like a QR code. Okay, that QR code holds data, and we have 2 patents in this area. So it works like this. Let's just say one of the pieces in your package is a free pizza to this pizzeria, Mario's Pizza. So you land in here to Atlanta, you get this package, you're like, wow, this is great, free pizza. And let's just say you call me up, you say, hey, Brian, let's go have lunch. I've got a free pizza, just moved into the community. Let's go talk about business over lunch. So we go sit down in the booth. You hand her the server this Welcome At certificate. She says, oh, wow, you're new to the community. Pizza's on the house today. And she takes that Welcome At piece from you. She heads back to the kitchen, back behind the dishwasher where she has a little office, and she puts that used Welcome At piece in the drawer of the desk. Okay, for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, she's collecting these from all the new families that are coming in through Welcome At. Okay, our local franchise operator provides her with 2 options, really. They give them these business reply envelopes, and they say, hey, when you get a thick stack of these, you can slide them in this envelope and find a mailbox. Okay, so these get shipped back to our data center where we're scanning these codes. They also have the option to actually open an app on their phone and scan them themselves. But essentially these get back to our office. We're scanning those codes, and what we're able to do is produce reporting like you see on my screen. So the small business owner, the owner of this pizzeria, now can see how many new families have come in the first part here during any given month. Okay, so you can see in, for example, May here, you've got 80 new families that have come in through Welcome At. If this business owner is a very rudimentary marketer, he could simply say this: 80 new people have tried my pizza that just moved into town. If I can get 40 of those to become regulars, then I've just picked up 40 new regulars this month. And if this trend continues, for example, for the next 10 months, I've got 400 new regulars I've just picked up, and I know my regulars spend $30 a month with me. So now he's got an ROI calculator. If he's a little more savvy, he'll go down to the bottom where we're collecting the name and address data. So we know who used the Welcome At piece based on that data code, because that information is stored in there. So in this example, we know Stephen Scott, who lives at 701 Jefferson Drive, went in and had pizza and just moved in. So it used to be our business owners would take this list of name and address data, and they would send thank you cards. They would handwrite themselves out to all these new people that came in because they knew the value of these customers. Over the years, they kept asking us, we're tired of spending our Saturday afternoons writing thank you cards. Can you do this for us? And now part of Welcome At, as you see on my screen here, is we send out a thank you card in an automated fashion on behalf of that business. So the power is this: you move into Atlanta, you get a free pizza, you have a great experience, and then a week later or 2 weeks later, whatever it is, you get a thank you card from them in the mail. That's really a powerful second touch that really increases that loyalty that we're trying to drive for our small businesses. And then, of course, back to the data report, because we have address-level data, so Stephen Scott, who we know lives at 701 Jefferson Drive, we're able to talk to Census. We've built some algorithms that tie into U.S. Census data, so we're able to throw up those addresses to Census, and they come back and tell us something demographically about these people. So in the top line there, Stephen Scott, Census says he makes probably about $125,000 a year, and he's probably about 6 years old. So we're able to capture some demographics. So what we produce in the middle section of our reporting is a demographic profile of those families that are moving in and coming in. So in this example, you've got more men than women. Okay, you've got an average income of $100,000, and you've got an average age of 40. So who's moving in? 40-year-old men making $100,000. And so the question becomes, okay, what does a small business do with big data? We know Coca-Cola knows how to use big data. We know how Kimberly-Clark knows how to use big data. Procter & Gamble, that's fine. But what does a small pizzeria do? So this is a really clever example. This guy went down to the small sign store in his community and had them make him a 5-foot-long nylon sign. They threw his logo on there, says, "We deliver." Okay, and then he goes down to the Pop Warner Football League, and he paid the dad something like $40 a Saturday to hang that sign on the chain-link fence on the football field on Saturday morning when the kids played, because he knew 2 things. He knew, number one, 40-year-old men making $100,000 probably had kids that age to play in that football league. And number 2, he knew the last thing that dads wanted to do on a Saturday morning after watching football was go home and make sandwiches and lunch. They'd much rather go out for a slice and a soda. So that's how small businesses use the big data. 2 more quick pieces of Welcome At, then I'll wrap us up here with some franchising. We also do things like map plotting, so businesses can see which neighborhoods are producing the best results for them, so they can really hone in on those neighborhoods that are working and team up maybe with the homeowners association or cater an event in that area. So we give them that visualization so they can see that. And then the last piece of Welcome At brings in the mobile side. Okay, so our clients used to say, okay, you can bring us a lot of data, you can track it and all this great stuff, you can send thank you cards out on our behalf, but can you track Stephen Scott and how frequently he's coming back for the next 5.6 years when he moves here? And so we took the old punch card platform, where you buy 9 Subways, they physically hole punch the card, you pull out of your wallet or your purse, and you hand that to them and they punch it. We've moved that to the mobile device, so now when you're paying for that sub, instead of fishing for that business card, you can actually open your Welcome At app, and you can scan a code they have right there at the counter, and that registers your punch on your mobile device. So it's great for the consumer, but what the real power is on the back end for the small business. Now, through that device, through that mobile connection, we're able to capture email address because consumers opted in for that when they signed up for the app, and then we give them a layer of analytics on frequency. So Welcome At, people come into this call, they think, okay, is it kind of like a Valpak? Is it kind of like a coupon program? Is it like an old welcoming committee type deal? But the reality is Welcome At's very much a system for loyalty, and it starts with putting the something tangible in the hand of somebody that moves, that high-value target, provides data tracking, provides the thank you piece. All of our franchisees maintain a social community through Facebook, and then we have the mobile device that ties in with email capture and tracking. So that's the Welcome At platform, and so we're going to segue from there moving into our franchise system. And I like to say this, I'm going to give you the top profile of our top franchisees so you can kind of compare yourself to these attributes that our top franchisees have. Number one, we have MBAs from NYU, Vanderbilt, Northwestern on our franchise team, and we have some people that have never gone to college. That is not a prerequisite. But what they do have in common is this, our franchise team. They score very high in being empathetic. They love their community, and they love helping people. Number two, they're gregarious. They like being out talking to people. They like working in their community with other small businesses. They're consultative in nature. They like to talk about marketing and data and things like that to small businesses in their community. And they're very dynamic. In a day in the life of a Welcome At franchisee could be meeting with that dental practice we talked about at 11 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, you could be meeting with a restaurateur, and at 4 o'clock, you could be meeting with a Goodyear Tire Center. And you've got to be dynamic to be able to change gears all day long. So if what I just told you, if you're like, that's not me, then Welcome At's probably not one you want to continue to discover on. So I think that's important to understand. And then, in terms of wrapping up here in our franchising, we've been around since 2003. As I mentioned, we did not start franchising until 2011. We brought in a big consulting firm after we've been doing this for 7 or 8 years. They built us out a plan to go nationwide through franchising. And again, we started franchising in 2011. Today we have 45 franchise units. We have still run some corporate units. So we're 50-plus units at Welcome At. We're very much a growth story right now. And so as I segue over to here, what are the benefits of the Welcome At franchise system? What are our franchisees, what are the benefits they gain from our system? Number one, all the data tracking we've been doing. We've built libraries, so our franchisees can go into the dental library, for example, if they're going to go call on that dental practice today and pull down some stats, the national average of response, the right offer, different pieces of data, so that dental practice can make a very good decision for themselves. The number one thing our franchisees would tell you, however, that the Welcome At system provides is what we call a recurring revenue platform. So to give you a great example, our 10th customer ever at Welcome At from 2003 is a car wash, and they're still a customer today and have paid us every month since then. So our franchisees are building each month on this compounding monthly revenue stream, which is extremely powerful for them. Because, for example, if they want to go on vacation for 2 or 3 weeks out of the month, they can, and they can come back, and their revenue will still be there. Okay, and to contrast that, there's other businesses where you sell one and you're done with it, and you move to the next month, and you've got to sell another one to continue your growth. In our world, it's building on that compounding recurring revenue. And at the end of the day, a business is an asset, and if you have a monthly compounding revenue or cash flow, you can put a multiple on that and get a pretty good sales price for it. So we have that. We have patents that our franchisees get to use. We have 2 on the tracking technology, 1 pending on the mobile. We do all the fulfillment on behalf of our franchisees, so they don't have to worry about data capturing or getting mail packages out. We do all that for them. And Welcome At's a home-based platform. We do not want our franchisees to go out there and get, office space. There's just no need. All of our systems are built in the cloud. In fact, I have an iPhone 6 Plus, and I can do just about everything at Welcome At on that mobile device because all our systems are accessible through the cloud. So our initial franchise fee is $43.5. You don't need much more than that to get cranked up with the business. If you owned a franchise unit up in New Jersey or New York, that would be your territory and a protected territory that way. We're very good about sharing information amongst the team. We have great systems that you would learn about in your further discovery about how we do share, and we have power teams and things like that for our franchisees to join. And we have a very good R&D department. In fact, we just had our annual conference, and we just launched a new product 2 weeks ago that's immediately available to all our franchisees to create additional revenue for them. So that's it for me today. And again, I hope I gave you enough so you can say, I either want to learn more about this or this one's not for me. And so I'm going to hand it back to Christine from here, and I thank everyone for your time today.
Thank you very much, Brian. Very nice information, informative. The next business we have specializes in providing all types of visual communication products and services. Mike?
Oh, thank you, Christine. I appreciate that. And, as the first gentleman said, thank everybody for joining us today. It's always nice to get an invitation to speak to people considering business ownership and franchising. I'd be remiss if I didn't start off with a few words about our relationship with FranNet and Christine, who's hosting this today. We have been around almost 30 years. We're one of the founders of our franchise model I'm about to introduce to you. But again, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you we've had a long relationship with FranNet, and many of our franchise members today in our system are from people like Christine of FranNet who have introduced candidates to us who they felt matched our model, and we're very thankful for that. So I would say this, whether you like my presentation today or perhaps the gentleman before me, Christine is a wealth of information and will help you match up to the best possible model. So you're certainly working with a great organization in FranNet. With that said, let me kind of go into a little bit about who we are and what we do, the role of a franchise member. I'll tell you a little bit about us here at headquarters, and then I believe we'll have some time at the end for questions. First of all, my name is Mike Klein. I'm the Vice President of Franchise Development for Image 360. And Image 360, in so many words, is a sign company. We make indoor signs, outdoor signs, big, small, middle. We work with very small businesses, perhaps mom and pop electrical contractors, all the way up to the Fortune 500 companies. And we work throughout the United States, and we have some of our centers are in Canada. We have some centers in England, so we have an international footprint as well. But as it says on the screen, we have over 300 centers across the United States, with some in Canada and England, and over almost 30 years of franchising, one of the founders of the industry. You have to go back to really the mid-'80s is when computers got to a point that allows us to do even what we do today in making signs. And as one of the founders of the industry, we've been able to grow our system very healthily and in a great, steadfast way, bringing on great franchise members to represent us and our brand and grow a business for themselves. And again, as I said earlier, many of them have come from FranNet. As you kind of read through some of the other bullet points on the slide, probably the one right there in the middle is one I just want to point out, and that is we are a true B2B model. We are only Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5:30. So if you're beginning to kind of look for a model where you're looking for a certain quality of life, this may be something that initially attracts you. You know, the fact that if you're currently working and you have weekend requirements or evening hour requirements, certainly this model would bring a little more kind of simplification to your life, if you will, with a Monday through Friday approach. And as it says, even on the fourth bullet, I say we're almost 30 years old. We're one of the founders of the industry, but the growth potential in our model continues to be amazing because of new technologies and capabilities that we roll out to our franchise members. That bullet towards the bottom where it talks about low COGS, that stands for cost of goods and services. And what you're really looking at is a model that typically averages a 70% gross profit, and that's a heck of a lot of money left over to take care of expenses and build money to the bottom line, et cetera. And we have a whole set of financial data and information in one of our documents that, should you want to explore us further, I can help you better understand those numbers. And then lastly, thanks mostly to our franchise members in our system, we're ranked as one of the top 500 franchises by the Entrepreneur magazine. Every year they put out a list, and they rank the thousands of franchises that are out there, and they come up with their top 500, and you'll see here we're ranked number 225. And again, I'd love to tell you that it was all because of what we do at headquarters. And we really do have a great system, and we have great franchise members, and those two things combined allows us to continually be ranked on this list year after year after year. So kind of the common thread here is a B2B model, Monday through Friday hours, a well-established model, but with potential and tremendous growth possibilities, and one that's well-respected in the franchising community, again, being ranked on that list I just referenced. When you talk about some of the franchise members and who they interact with, this really gets to be the fun part. And this is really just tip of the iceberg. But we do work with professional sport teams, and we do work with major retailers like Cartier and CVS, and we do work for the government and NASCAR and airports. You name it. If you can think about where a sign is, that's an opportunity for us. It's funny, the previous presenter, I was listening to his, and he mentioned about the guy with the pizzeria. And he goes down to his sign shop and he gets that sign that he hangs on the fence there for the Little League. That's what we do. Our job ultimately, and what you're building your businesses around, is to help other businesses. And that's really the fun part. Help other businesses promote themselves, brand themselves, grow their business. And you really do see your work on display as you're in the community. So when you're driving down the street 6, 9, 10 months after your doors are open, you'll say, hey, we did that vehicle wrap, or hey, I did that boardroom, or I did that signage. And you really do see what you're creating, how it impacts the business community. If you notice on that next to last bullet on the left side, I have the name Cal Ripken. Now, I'm calling you from Baltimore, Maryland, and if you follow baseball at all, you may know the name Cal Ripken, real famous baseball player for the Baltimore Orioles for many years. And on this screen, you'll see that after he retired, he and his brother Billy, who also played pro baseball, opened up a minor league stadium here north of Baltimore in a town called Aberdeen. And this is them with their little furry mascot standing in front of their stadium. And everything you see there, all of the signage on the facade, and even that signage that they're standing on, which we call floor graphics, we did all of that. And if you go into the stadium, we did all of the work for the concession stands and the signage along the fence and the scoreboard, et cetera. So it's kind of neat who you have a chance to interact with. Well, we've just done a lot of really neat projects with some pretty high-profile people, and certainly Cal Ripken and his brother Billy would rank right up there. Here's another one that I'll just show you on some vehicle wrapping and graphics we did. There is a company down in Texas called NRG. They're an energy company. And we've done a heck of a lot of work for them over the years through our national accounts team, who then partners with our franchise members for the production side. And what you see here is kind of like a mobile RV-like unit. And you will see this occasionally on TV when Mother Nature strikes. They roll this RV into communities that have been hit hard by weather, and the power is out, and it's a mobile charging station. So people can power up their laptops and their cell phones or any other item that they need. And I remember distinctively watching the news late last year when Texas was going through some pretty challenging weather with ice storms and power outages, and darn if I didn't see this vehicle in a community where one of the news broadcasts was going on. So while we don't actually provide the service of charging people's phones, here's an example of where we partnered with a pretty high-profile company, and they're doing a great community service for communities that get hit hard by weather. And again, just to go a little further into who we work with and all the different opportunities, that's one thing I really like to drive home, because if you're going to consider opening a business, you really just want to quickly understand what is your opportunity. And in our world, it's really everybody from A to Z. We do work with professional sport teams and advertising agencies, and as I mentioned earlier, we're in the government sector and hospitality sector. But if you go down to that next to last bullet where it says labor-oriented, think about this the next time you leave your home or you're out and about. Notice every car, truck of every size, and van that has some type of graphic on it. I mean, on this screen you see two that we did. The top one is a mobile veterinarian who drives around and fixes up cats and dogs. We did that wrap, and then below you see ESPN's vehicle. We've done a lot of work for all of their affiliates across the country over the years. But if you think about how many vehicles are on the road that have graphics, somebody did that, and there's a great chance it was probably one of our franchise members. And many of the times, our franchise members will be driving down the road, and they'll notice a truck or a van with letters and graphics that are peeling or not looking too good, or maybe it's just a white truck with a phone number and a name, and they'll make a quick note of that, and they'll have their graphic artist put together a little idea for them, and they'll send it off to that potential customer and say, hey, we saw your van on the road, and while your name and number did strike us, hey, here's an idea if you're interested. So we have a lot of unique ways to pick up business, but that's kind of a true grassroots effort right there. probably the next thing I'd want to share with you is who we look for in a franchise member. And like the previous gentleman said, we're not for everybody. There is a certain candidate we look for. And again, Christine and the great people at FranNet know this well. But there's a couple of things here that really we'd want to point out at this time. First of all, we're a full-time active model. We do not look for people who are looking for semi-absentee or passive or just looking to be an investor. Our franchise members are not making the signs. We help you hire the people to do that, which I'll talk about support here in a few slides. But our franchise members, along with their sales rep, they're the ones out in the business community making those connections, making those relationships, and really driving that business. They're going to chamber events. They're going to networking groups. They have a high level of comfort walking into a business and saying something as simple as, hey, I'm Mike. I'm with Image 360, and I just wanted to drop off my card and my brochure, and if you ever need anything, I hope you let us know. And many times we get back the answer, what do you mean signs? And that's that window of opportunity we look for where we can describe what we do. So many times people just don't know our capabilities. Like I showed you on the previous screen, those vehicle wraps, like that mobile veterinarian. Well, there's a good chunk of people out there today who still think, there's some poor guy in the back of a warehouse with a bucket of paint and a brush, and he's there for 2 weeks kind of doing the painting, if you will. Little do they know we print on a high-resolution, wide-format digital printer to like a Post-it note type material, and it goes on the vehicle like wallpaper, and it comes off without damaging the paint should that ever have to occur. And by educating our customers, we pick up a lot of business that way. But the role of the franchise member, again, is to be out in the business community. So you want to have a level of comfort, not that it's really sales-oriented. It's kind of a sales component to it, but it's really about networking. It's about relationship building, and it's about being part of the business community. So certainly being outgoing, friendly, positive, as that first bullet says, is tremendous. The other thing that I would point out is that next to last bullet, where I say it's excellent for families and individuals. Now, little did we know some 25, almost 30 years ago that when we created our franchise model, how many husband and wife teams would be in our system. Roughly 60 to 65% of our model is family run and owned and operated. It's husbands and wives and moms and dads with sons and daughters. We've got pairs of brothers and sisters. We've got uncles and aunts. You name it, we've got some kind of combination. So if you're sitting here today saying, I really kind of want to do a business and I want something my family can be involved in, or I want something that maybe my children will come along and want to be a part of, we've got countless examples of that throughout the system. And the great thing about it, it's very gender neutral. It's an example would be, I could show you many centers where the female is out in the business community driving the business, and I could, and the husband is inside managing the staff, and vice versa. I can show you examples of where the husband's out in the business community, and the wife might be inside managing the operation. From that sake, there's a lot of flexibility. And then what we've also seen is the sons and daughters who worked with mom and dad as they went through school and graduated college, they've since come back, and in some cases, they've taken over for mom and dad. We've seen businesses pass right through the family to the next generation. So keeping all of that in mind, I would say three things. You don't need any previous experience. In fact, if you look at the roster of our franchise group, of our 300-plus centers, we probably have less than 5 people who came to us with previous experience. You see on this screen some of the backgrounds, but quite frankly, we do have one of everybody from practically every walk of life. They don't have experience. Many of them can't even draw a stick man, but what they all have in common is that they enjoy being part of the business community. They enjoy the networking. They enjoy the relationships they create. They like the fact that they're impacting their business community. Now, what's further interesting is if you called 100 of our franchise members today and said, did you ever think you would own a sign store? They would tell you no. Nobody really wakes up and says, today's the day I want to own a sign store. If they did, my job would be easier, but that just doesn't happen. And there's where Christine and the good people of FranNet come in, because they can kind of show you that while you may not have thought of our model, why it might match what you're looking for. Because at the end of the day, and you see the backgrounds here on the screen, again, these people didn't wake up thinking they would own an Image 360. But once they went through the process with someone like Christine and myself, there was a certain quality of life that they saw they could obtain in the model. And oh, by the way, it just happens to be in the world of making signs. So if you're sitting there thinking, geez, I can't even draw a stick man, or I have no artistic ability, please don't let that hold you back from further exploring, because this model is being run and operated by many people, again, from very, very different backgrounds. And let me tell you just a couple more things about us and some of the things that you would enjoy should you consider Image 360. We do offer a very nice protected territory where you would have an area that would have 4,000 to 5,000 businesses within, and they all do a certain amount of revenue and certain SIC codes that favor our industry, low kind of hanging fruit businesses, if you will, that we know we can approach and gain work. And in that protected territory, we will not put another brand. So it's your backyard, and that would be your home base, if you will. However, I do also want to point out that while you have a protected territory, we want you to get business from wherever you can gain business. If you look at the franchise members, especially those hitting and exceeding all of the averages, they're not just doing business within 2 or 4 miles of where they're located. They're doing work regionally and even sometimes across the country. I remember I was in one of our centers here in Northern Virginia, and I travel quite a bit for what I do. And the gentleman there, his name is Rusty, this banner had to be, 70 feet long. It was sizable. And on the phone number for this banner, it was 310. Well, I happen to know through my travels that that's Southern California. So I said, Rusty, well, why are you doing a banner for somebody in California? And he says, well, the long story short is my contact that used to run an amphitheater here, kind of a music venue in Northern Virginia, relocated out to California. She didn't know who to call. She called me, and we're doing it. So because we're in technology, we're really not reliant on people coming to us within 2, 4, 7 miles, like a haircutting place or a tanning salon or a restaurant. We can go get business wherever it can be had. And that's one of the beauties of the model is you're not limited to an area. You're really able to maximize opportunity wherever you have referrals and connections. A few other things just on this screen. We do have a capped royalty structure, which we would share with you if you want to learn more in some of our documentation. But I put that up here because there's a philosophical difference between us and many other franchises. We have a capped royalty structure because we believe we have our best interest at heart for our franchise members. Those most successful franchise members, we believe, shouldn't be paying the bulk of royalties to support the system. We know what we need for infrastructure to be able to support our system in a good, supportive way, but certainly not at the expense of our most prestigious franchise members. So I think you would enjoy the fact that we have a capped royalty system, but the support that we provide certainly is second to none, and I'll even talk about that here on another slide. Those numbers on the bottom of this screen that say 250 and 50, if you have a net worth of about $250,000 and liquid capital of $50,000, this is a model you could consider. An average center typically opens up for around $140,000 to $150,000, and then we recommend about $50,000 in working capital. Some people pay cash. Many more people will do an SBA-backed loan. Some will use their 401k or IRA money to fund their business. And if you're unfamiliar with that program, that's also something Christine of FranNet could introduce to you as well. But those are just kind of the quick raw numbers of our model. And then what I would also share with you is a little more about us here at headquarters. So as you look at our model and what we've done over again, almost 30 years, we have weathered quite a few storms. And if you think back where times truly, they're still tough for a lot of people today. And if you look back, kind of the last few years, it was even rougher for many more. But, if you look even past the most recent history, you go back to 9/11 or the tech bubble and other significant parts of history where the economy was hit hard. Well, we not only survived all of those events, but we continue to grow our system, and our franchise members continue to do well. So if you're considering a business right now, probably one of the things you want to look at is, well, is there a well-established business that continues to do well through all economic climates? And ours would be one of those. During our process, if you were to look into our model, we at some point would give you a password and let you talk to franchise members, and you could ask them point blank, how did you weather the storms of the economy as time has gone by? And I think you would be very pleased with what you would hear from their standpoint. The other thing that is very nice right now, if you're going into business, is the ability to pick excellent employees. When you start an Image 360, you only hire 2 people, a salesperson to help you drive the sales and an inside person to help you with the production and the design and the graphic component of what we do. Right now, there's no better time to pick employees because of the amount of people available. So you can get really good employees at really good competitive wages. And probably the last thing I would share with you on this screen is just our track record. I spoke to how old we are, if you will, our veteran tenure. And if you look at a model that's been around 20-plus years like us and continues to grow in a nice, healthy fashion, that more than any reason probably should give you some peace of mind about if you're going to go into business now, why Image 360 might be the right choice if everything else matches up for you. Again, a little bit about us at headquarters as I kind of veered off path there for a second, but I would want to point out immediately our support. We have over 50 headquartered people that support our system every day. So whether our franchise members have questions about accounting or R&D or personnel, or maybe it's purely operations and vendors, we've got 1 or more people assigned to help them. In fact, 12 of the 50 are always in the field at some level of on-site support. We have regional directors, we have technology people. They're in the field, they're working with our franchise members, and we do a tremendous amount of on-site effort for them. And it all kind of gets started with Christine and going through our process to see if we match up and we're a business that fits maybe what you're looking for in a business model. And then once we agree that that's a great path and we do a franchise agreement, you would come up to Columbia, Maryland, where I'm located, for 3 weeks of headquarter training. Your employees would join you for 2 of those 3 weeks, and then we would come back with you for 2 weeks of on-site grand opening training. So there's a tremendous amount of hand-holding, if you will, just to get the doors open, plus that on-site visitations that I mentioned earlier. A tremendous amount of marketing materials and account programs, national accounts, I should say. We're really heavy on the internet, search engine optimization, et cetera. Way too much to go into with our limited time today, but I think you'd be pleased with not only the efforts that you would put out to gain business, but a lot of what we do to help drive business from a headquartered position as well. And then the last thing I would share with you is my personal information. This is my name and my title, all of my phone contact information, my email address. I invite you to reach out anytime with any questions. Certainly Christine has all of my contact information, and she can help partner us up if this is something you'd like to further consider. So, again, thank you very much for your time. I hope that piqued your curiosity. Again, if a B2B model
the conference has been unmuted.
Family, this could be a great opportunity. And with that, Christine, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Okay, I'm going to open I unmuted everyone to ask any questions to either one, Mike or Brian.
Hi, I have a question for Brian for Welcome Mat. Brian, maybe, I can't remember if you went over this in your presentation, but can you talk a little bit more about the training that goes on? Because you said it's really a home-based business, so how much training is available to the franchisee?
Yeah, so very good question. That's an excellent question. It's one that we really do cover a lot in our discovery process, but just to give you kind of a quick overview, the way we do training is we actually just finished a training last week, so I can kind of take you through that. So the people that were in that class, they spent about 2 weeks prior to coming to class, which is here at our headquarters in Atlanta. It's a week-long training, but they spent about 2 weeks prior. We have Welcome Mat University online, where they take classes and get prepared, so they have a foundation when they come to class. And then they spend a week with us here in a classroom-type setting with other trainees. And then, once you graduate class on that Friday, it's a week-long here, you're assigned 2 things. Number one, it's a mentor. We have a mentor program where we have franchisees that go through certifications to be mentors, and they actually will come out to your market and spend a few days with you out in your market. And then we actually move you on to what we call a power team. And this power team meets once a week for 3 months. And it's a Friday call, generally around lunchtime. If you're on vacation, can't make it, fine, they get recorded. But you spend time with your peers each week for 3 months, just reviewing best practices and things like that with people that are in similar stages to you. And furthermore, your mentor, they're assigned to talk to you once a week as well. So there's tons, and there's a lot more than that. I could go on and on, but that kind of just gives you the broad overview of how we do that.
Right. Okay. All right. That makes sense, because I was just wondering how would the franchisee access, are they because it's home-based, are they physically going out and interfacing with these businesses
Mm-hmm.
to get them on service? But I guess the training would give more information about that.
Yes, and again, if you want to continue to explore with Christine, you'll get through all that. You'll walk away through several different discovery calls, knowing, wow,
Right.
this is support. This is how it all works, and this is how
Right.
they keep me connected.
Right, exactly. And the second question, Brian, is let's say, for instance, because when Mike was talking about this kind of brought up a question for Welcome Mat. Let's say, because you're developing relationships and businesses, helping businesses develop relationships in the community, and Welcome Mat is the catalyst to make that happen. So what happens when the franchisee actually moves? Do they buy into another territory? Do they sell the previous? What happens at that point?
So, and this is a Welcome Mat question?
Yes.
Okay. So our franchisees, they own a protected area, so it's a culmination or a group of essentially zip codes that are connected that make up a certain level of movement and population. So our franchisees, we want them to stay in the market. If you're going to move and let's just say you're going to move to California or San Diego, then we're going to help you try to resell the franchise to someone who's there locally. So it would be very hard to run from San Diego if you had a New Jersey franchise. So we help our franchisees transition if something comes up in their life where they have to do that.
Okay, great. All right, that's great. Okay.
Any other questions? There's a question for Mike. Who would help you find the real estate?
We would. As part of those 50-plus headquartered people, one of our teams is a gentleman leads a team called Franchise Services, and his name is Steve Hoyle. He's been with us 25 years. And Steve and his team would not only help you identify the best site, but will physically come there to your area and drive your protected territory with you. We'll help you identify what we feel are the best sites on certain criteria that we measure. You ultimately would have the final say, because it would be your home, but we're going to help you identify the best site. We're going to help you negotiate the lease. We're going to help you with the build-out of the center. We have about a 185-point checklist from the time someone signs their franchise agreement to the time their doors are open. Steve and his team are going through this checklist to make sure every I is dotted and T is crossed before doors are open. But back to the core question, that's something we want to be heavily involved in. And I would also just, one quick addition to this, we are not retail. So you would not find yourself in a strip mall between a Starbucks and an Office Depot or something like that. We're looking for about 1,800, maybe 2,000 square feet and a light industrial, professional park-like setting. And that's where we would begin to target our search for your sign center.
Okay, great. And also, how long does it take to find the real estate to your grand opening?
Basically, it's a process from the time you sign the franchise agreement. You'll have your doors open in 2 to 3 months, and that would include you going through our training as well as the site selection and build-out. The site selection is something we begin immediately after the franchise agreement is executed, and it takes typically about 30, maybe 45 days from start to finish, meaning identify the site and to make sure the build-out is mostly complete. Sometimes we find the perfect site where the wall's in the perfect place and the carpet's the right color, and sometimes the perfect site is still under construction, so we agree to maybe wait. But on average, from the time you sign the agreement, 2 to 3 months after that point, you will be open for business with doors open, ready to go.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question for Mike. You mentioned, a specific region, but then you also talked about how franchisees can sell outside of the region or nationally. Can you talk a little more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So because we're in signage, we're in the world of technology, you'll find that many of our franchise members have a really good kind of backyard base of business in their protected territory. But because they can do work in their center and then ship it or partner with another franchise member, perhaps across the country or with our national accounts team, you're not limited or you're not limited to just doing work in your protected territory. So, and I've heard the other gentleman say Princeton, so I'll just use Princeton, New Jersey as an example. If your location was there, hypothetically, certainly you would find a good chunk of your business coming from that area. However, if one of your clients said, well, you know, we also have one of these same facilities in St. Louis and we need the same signage, could you do it? You absolutely could. And that's really how you begin to grow your business and branch out. So you'll find that you'll do work locally, regionally, and again, sometimes many, many states away.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions? How do franchisees find good employees?
Is that for me, I believe, Christine? Mike?
I would assume that's you.
Okay. Well, finding good employees is more simple than one might believe. We find a lot of our employees on Craigslist, which might surprise many, but I'll just give you one of our recent examples. We opened up a new Image 360 late last year in Oregon, and we put an ad out with our language for graphic designers. And in 72 hours, we had 39 resumes. Now, half of them really didn't match us, but the other half did. So with that, we went through the resumes with our new franchisee. We helped identify who we thought were the top players. We even did a few phone interviews for our franchise member to make sure that what somebody was putting on their resume kind of matched up to what we were looking for. Ultimately, our franchise member makes the final decision. You know, they're going to hire the person they want regarding chemistry. You know, is it someone you'd want to employ? But hiring good people right now is somewhat easy, and believe it or not, Craigslist is a great source. Once your doors are open, don't be surprised if people come by and drop off resumes. I was talking to a franchise member last week in Virginia who was just, you know, blown away that somebody walked in his door. They had relocated to the area, and they dropped off a resume that they had been in the industry for 15 years, and he happened to be looking for somebody. So that's another way we attract people with doors open. But initially, it's primarily through Craigslist and bringing resumes into review.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions?
Hi, Brian. This is a question from Brian from Welcome Mat. Did you find, I know you guys have been around since 2003, has the economy affected this franchise in any which way with recession or anything like that? I know 2008 was a little bit hard for a lot of folks. So did you see any kind of a change?
Yeah, this is such a great question. And so we actually had some of our top sales months during the peak of the recession. And the reason is this. We work with so many different verticals. I think our libraries have like 75 different verticals. So at Welcome Mat, you have a stable of many different types of businesses. And sure, you know, maybe salons were down during the recession, but auto service centers were really doing great because, you know, everybody, instead of buying new cars, were getting their cars fixed. So because we have a lot of small businesses, across a lot of industries, we actually grew through the recession. So it's solid. It's a very solid business in that sense, for sure. And I hope that kind of answered your question. I could talk more about with you offline, but that's the basic principle of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. If not, I want to thank both gentlemen. Thank you very much. I will follow up with everybody that was on. If you have any questions or need anything, my information is right there. You can call me anytime. I appreciate all of you attending. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.